Hi everybody, it's Jan Romano again from Mass Higher Metro North Career Center. This is our third part of our database functions video training, and we're going to talk about subtotaling today. Subtotaling is part of a database function that you may be interested in learning, and we are going to talk about managing the data and why we would use subtotaling. And subtotaling, part of it is groups and outlining, and then how to remove the subtotaling. So that's what we're going to be doing today. What are we going to be using? We're going to be using that same database that we used in parts 1 and 2. And so this database here is the database that we worked on before that has first name and last name and title, department, location, hours, hourly wage, and weekly salary. Remember, we turned this into a table. And so that table has now the arrows for sorting and filtering. So remember, we use these down arrows for doing simple sorts, ascending and descending order. We also use this down arrow for doing filtering. So we decided to come down here and maybe take off all of the check marks and find people that are just in specific categories. So I want to find all the credit and analysts. So I'll click OK, and we have one credit analyst working in the Cambridge office. Remember, we used clear up here in the data tab over in the sort and filter section, and we went to clear. So I'm going to click on clear and bring everything back. So now today we're going to work on the idea of not just filtering the data. And remember, filtering, I click the down arrow. We use these filtering buttons, right? But there's also custom filtering. And remember, custom filtering was the fact that you could click the down arrow and maybe go to this filtering section right above search and find, for example, hourly people that are working hourly less than 40 hours. So I'm going to click OK, and there are several people who are working less than 40 hours. And then remember, we can clear and bring that all back. So that was what we did in our parts 1 and part 2. And now for part 3, we're going to talk about subtotaling. So I'm going to take my webcam off for a second, and we're going to focus just on Excel, and I'll come back a little bit later. So here we go. First thing I want you to understand is subtotaling is grouping the data together. And before we can group the data together, I want you to notice over here I put steps 1 and 2. We can change the color of the design, put it back to clear, no blue, no white, but we also want to convert that text back to the regular text that we're going to be using in order to subtotal. So using a table and subtotaling is sometimes confusing, and so we're going to be turning this back into a range of text. So first of all, I'm going to click into my table, and I'm going to just bring to your attention right up on our ribbon, there is a new tab that pops up called Design, and it is under the organization or the category of Table Tools. So I'm going to click on Design, and we're going to get a whole bunch of buttons here. And one of the things we're going to do is come over here to the right. We're going to click the down arrow where it says Table Styles, and we're going to choose this one right here, which means take all the coloring off and put it back to just black and white. Well, that's still not converting this to a range, but that's at least easier to see, let's say. And what we're going to do is still stay on the Design tab under Table Tools. We're going to come to the Tools section and click on Convert to Range. And that's going to convert our table back to normal range. And notice it says, do you want to convert this table to a normal range? Yes, which means put it back to normal text, take off the arrows, don't make it a table anymore. So we took off the colors, we converted it back to a range, and then the next thing that we're going to do for subtotaling is think about what we might want to add up. And let's say we want to add up the hours worked in each location. So I want you to think about this logically. if we want to see each location, I want you to look in the location column right now and realize that this database is not organized by location yet. That would be the first thing I would want to do when I create a subtotal. I would always want to sort by the field that I would like to see the data organized in. So I'm just going to click right here, and notice our arrows are gone. So how do we sort? Well, remember, you can come up to the Data tab. You can come over to the Sort and Filter section, and there is a to Z and a Z to A button. Remember, A to Z is ascending, so I'm going to click on ascending. So what does Excel do? It puts it all, the whole database, in order by location. Remember in our last example, we used Anthony Miller. So Anthony Miller, he works in Boston in the administrative section. This is called his record, and all that record information stays together. So we don't have to worry about anything else being kind of jumbled up. But this now database is organized by location. Once we do that, now we can go into the Data tab, and all the way over here to the right-hand side, we're going to find the last button on the right, which is called Subtotal. So let's click on Subtotal, and what do we get? Well, we get this dialog box that we need to fill out and make sure we understand this logically. It says at each change in. Well, what did we just sort this by? We sorted this by location. So I'm going to click this down arrow and say at each change in location. When the locations change, what do I want Excel to do? I'm going to say sum. Sum up what? Well, I could sum up the weekly salary. I could sum up the hours that they work. So I'm going to do both. It wouldn't be wise to add up the hourly wage. That wouldn't really give us any good information. But maybe I want to see how many hours per location people are working and what is the total salary that we're paying out for that location. So I'm going to click OK right now. And I want you to notice what just happened. Location, Boston. All the Boston people are together. I'm going to widen this column so you can see. What did Excel do? It put in another row. It typed in Boston total for me. Take a look. It gave me the total hours worked in Boston and how much money we were spending for that weekly salary. Or maybe this is whatever pay period that it is that we're totaling this up for. Notice Burlington is the next location. Total hours worked in the Burlington office and the salaries. Notice the Cambridge total is on row 20. Notice the Watertown total is on row 24. Notice the Woburn total is on row 27. And what's really great, underneath the Woburn total on row 28 is the grand total of all of the subtotals. So the subtotals are for Boston, Burlington, Cambridge, Watertown, Woburn, and then 793 hours were collectively worked throughout the whole company, let's say in these different locations, and 19,000 was spent for salaries at this time. So you can see the whole view here, and there are three different views. How do I see those three different views? I want to show you. Come over here to the left-hand side with your eyes with me. Beside, to the left of the column A, and you'll see number 1, 2, and 3 here. These are three outlining views. So right now we're actually looking at number 3, to be honest with you, but let's look at number 1. So I'll click on number 1, and it shows just the grand total. So view number 1 is showing me the grand totals. Maybe I just want to print that off. View number 2, I'll come back over here on the left-hand side and click on number 2, and it's going to give me all the subtotals. Subtotals. Now I want you to notice that Boston total and Burlington, Cambridge, and then it's all totaled up with the grand total. I do want you to notice that over here on the left-hand side there are plus signs. So say, for example, I'm the manager of the Woburn office, and I want to come over here and hit the plus sign beside the Woburn office. Oh, I chose Watertown instead. All right, the Watertown office. It is going to expand the Watertown office. Notice this minus collapses the Watertown office. I'll hit the plus sign for Woburn. Expands the Woburn office. So there are 2 people who work in Woburn, and then I can use this minus, which is collapse. So this view allows me to see each location, the total hours and the total salaries and the subtotals as well, and then it lets me expand the data. And then that was view number 2. Now, view number 3, watch when I click on view 3 over here on the left-hand side. This is the view that we were looking at when we first did a subtotal. This is view number 3, which expands each, in this case, location. All of Boston, a Boston total. All of Burlington, a Burlington total, and on it goes. So this is subtotaling, and you can subtotal by any one of the fields that you like, but one at a time. So when you subtotal, we just subtotaled by location. Once you're done with it, you print it, you email it, you do whatever you need to do with it, you might want to then subtotal by a different field. So what we're going to do is show you how to clear this subtotal, and we call it removing the subtotaling, and then we'll try it again. So I'm going to come up here to my data tab again, over here to the right to my subtotal button, click on subtotal, and want you to notice down here at the very bottom beside the OK button is remove all. So I'm going to click into remove all, and all the subtotaling has been removed. Why? Because we're going to try it again. And what are we going to subtotal by this time? I want to subtotal by department. And again, I can only subtotal when there are fields that have numbers in them. So if we look at our columns F, G, and H, those are the only 3 fields that have numbers in them, because remember, Excel is going to sum up the numbers, and so we have to be logical about what it is that we want to see summed up. So again, we'll sum up the hours, we'll sum up the weekly salaries, or maybe this time we'll just sum up the hours. Again, you can decide, but this time we're going to sum them up by department instead of location. So what do I have to do first? Remember, I always click in the field that I want to sort by, and I'm going to come up to my sorting button in my data tab and sort this A to Z. So all of the departments are now grouped together. Then I come up to data, subtotal. This time, at each change in, what did I just sort by? Department. So I'm going to choose department. I want it to sum up the hours and the weekly salary, let's say. We'll keep it the same. Click OK. Different numbers, because now we're subtotaling by department. So notice there are 2 fields in the accounting department, 2 people that are working. Total hours that they put in for this pay period is 75, and we're paying out 2,650. So I want you to notice on row 4 is the accounting total for the accounting department. Row 7 is the administration department total. Advertising total on row 10. Finance in row 13. HR only has 1 person in the HR department, but there's the subtotal for those. IT, marketing, production, and it keeps going down. So you can see that. Remember, this is view 3. It always gives you view 3. Well, let's take a look at view 1. So we'll come over here on the left-hand side and click on view 1. View 1 is always the grand total. View 2 are the subtotals and the grand total at the bottom. But remember, to the left, you can always hit the plus sign and expand this. In this case, the department is advertising that I'm expanding, and see who is working in the advertising department, and then collapse with this minus. That's view 2. And then remember, view 3 gives me all of my departments and all of the people that work in each department in the subtotals. Last thing, what if we want to remove the subtotaling? We click anywhere in the database. Come on up to data, come over to subtotal. Where is remove? It's down here beside the OK button. I click on remove all, and all the subtotaling is removed. So this is the part 3 database section. And I would say if you were really interested in manipulating your data even further, I would say go to the pivot table little recording that we did about pivot tables and learn about a simple pivot table, because pivot tables are a pretty powerful tool. But subtotaling is great as well. So remember, there's filtering, there's sorting, there's subtotaling that you can do with your Excel spreadsheets. So this ends the three-part series of Excel and managing the data. And hopefully you were pleased with that and could understand the simple steps basically that you go through in order to subtotal your spreadsheet. So pretty soon, I hope next week we'll have a day of questions and answers, and it'll be live. So I'm looking forward to that with all of you. And let me know if you're watching these and if they are helpful, and we'll be making more. All right, this is it. This is the end of the Excel training videos, and I hope they are helpful to you while you are social distancing at this time.